Hi, I'm Gemma Hawley. I'm the Managing Director of Maverick Homes. Today we're doing a video on the Tenant Fee Ban. Now the Tenant Fee Ban comes into place as of the 1st of June 2019, and the Tenant Fee Ban is specifically aimed at people like myself, letting agents, and also landlords, self-managed landlords. The purpose of the video today is for us to give some broad understanding to either self-managed landlords, our current landlords, and also maybe if you're a landlord and you are with another agent, it just gives you a broader understanding of why that agent is doing the particular things they're doing and the effect it may have on you. So starting from the top, Tenant Fee Ban, well, it pretty much is what it says on the tin. As of the 1st of June, we can no longer charge for anything. I may as well just say what we can charge for: rent, deposit, and even that's capped. So no charges for admin, referencing, inspections, exit inspections, inventories, guarantor fees, nothing. Nothing can no longer be charged for any tenant. And that goes if you are a self-managed landlord. I can't stress that enough. What would happen if you were caught doing these things? Well, I suppose let's jump straight in. The fine that you would be fined would be a £5,000 fine. And we'll just say that you charge a tenant £150 to move into a property after the 1st of June. You would be asked what that money, and you would have to provide evidence for this as well. So you would then turn around and say, well, £25 was for the background check, £15 for the reference, and the rest was my time. Fine. They would then turn around to you and say, well, that's 3 lots of fines that you've charged and that you're going to be charged. So you would be charged £15,000 for each thing that you've charged for. As a second offence, if you were to do it again, and I can't imagine why you would do it again, you would be charged in exactly the same format, but £35,000. So £35,000 times 3, if based on the previous evidence I've just given you. These are designed to put you out of business. They're designed to put me out of business. They are designed to put a landlord or self-managed landlord out of business. So what I would suggest that we do is definitely watch this video. There is a lot to take in. It's a long video, one of our longer ones. What I would recommend, watch the video all the way through, get a broad understanding, and then download our fact sheet. The fact sheet will just give an outline of what we've discussed today, but also some hints and tips. There are a few bits and bobs that don't have grey areas. There's a way round it, so to speak. Not a way of charging people, but a way in which you can look after yourself and protect yourself. So it's pretty reasonably straightforward in terms of what we can and can't charge for in terms of the standardised fees that are set out by either agents or landlords. So moving straight on from that, we're going to look at deposits. Okay, so deposits have been capped. Okay, now nothing's changing in terms of registering the deposits. All deposits still need to be registered, and they need to be registered within 30 days with the prescribed information, the terms and conditions sent out to the tenant. However, how much we can charge for the deposit has changed. So it's been capped at 5 weeks for anything under £50,000. So if the rent is less than £50,000 per annum, the cap is 5 weeks rent. Anything over 50,000, it is 6 weeks rent, and that's pretty much it. We've had a lot of questions raised about what happens to current deposits. So if you've got deposits on ASTs at the moment, what happens with them as of the 1st of June? It's absolutely fine. What you would need to do is just leave them as they are until the point of re-signing the contract. If they go into a statutory periodic or a rolling contract, nothing needs to be done. You don't need to return any of that deposit back to them. So we'll just say you've got Alfie in, he lives in one of your apartments, and you took 6 weeks worth of deposit from them. They sign into another contract after the 1st of June, you will need to return one of those weeks back to them to bring it in line with the 5th week. If you keep them on the rolling contract, not a problem, okay? There was a little bit of a grey area a couple of weeks ago, basically when the first rollout of the Act came out, we were told that we had until June 2020 to return all fees over the 5/6 weeks. That's not actually the case. So if you have Alfie in that apartment and he stays on a rolling contract for the next 3 years, that's fine. That can stay at the rent, the deposit that you originally took. But if you sign back into a contract or sign a new contract with him, or anybody else moves in after the 1st of June, so he leaves, it has to be capped at 5 weeks under the 50,000, 6 weeks after. Okay, so I know at this particular stage you'll be asking exactly the same question that I did when the tenant fee ban was rolled out to us. You're going to have 2 or 3 people come and view your property, and then they're going to go and view the agent down the road and Mr. Landlord down the road. What's stopping them making an application with agent, landlord, and for instance myself? Each of us are going to be incurring the cost of doing their background check. So Mr. Agent will be doing it, Mr. Landlord will be doing it, I'll be doing it. How do we make sure that they are going to follow through on your application of your property? We don't want to get to a week before and they go, oh no, I'm going to go with X, Y and Z down the road. So as a part of the tenant fee ban, you can use a holding fee. Now at this particular point, I would suggest that you do download our hints and tips. There's a few hints and tips of what you should call it. One of the things I would really refrain from doing is calling it a holding deposit, just because there are a lot of strict regulations about deposits and how quickly you have to register them. I will explain in more detail on that PDF format help sheet, but try and stick to calling it a holding fee just to not cause yourself any more headache. Okay, so the holding fee is also capped, and there's a lot of regulation, if I'm honest, about the holding fee. The holding fee is capped to 1 week's rent, okay, and that is 1 week's rent per AST. Okay, so if you've got a 3-bedroom property, you've got 2 people making an application to that property, so they're a couple, you can't charge each couple 1 week's holding fee. It's 1 week holding fee per property. Saying that, if you have a HMO and you were offering individual ASTs on each room, then you can charge 1 holding fee per AST. Okay, so it really is worth knowing that. Also, you can only take 1 holding fee. So if 3 people want to make an application to you, you can't take 3 application fees, 3 lots of holding fees. You can only take 1 holding fee, and the moment you take that 1 holding fee, you have to take the property, stop marketing the property. Now you can change it to let subject to contract, that's fine, so it shows that it is let and it's subject to contract, because obviously that's exactly what we would normally do, but you can't keep it as let on marketing material. You do have to say that it has been let. So moving on to the next part, there is further legislation about how long we can keep these holding fees. The holding fee is capped at 2 weeks of how long we can hold that. Again, I can imagine straight away the questions you're asking. You know, some of us are marketing property 2 months in advance. Indeed, in Coventry, where I live and where we have our agency, we can be advertising student properties up to 6 months in advance. How is that holding fee going to correlate in with that? There is something we can do. We can get them to sign a mutual agreement form to say that they are happy for us to hold that holding fee until a set date. Okay. Again, there's another hint and tip on the fact sheet where you don't really want to shoot yourself in the foot. Really worth downloading that. But yes, so what we can do is Jane, who wants a student property, she wants to let a property, I'm marketing it June, she's moving in September, I can get her to sign a mutual agreement to say that we're holding it in, holding that holding fee up until the 1st of June, 1st of September, when she moves into her property. There it will become a part of her first week's rent. Excellent. So if we can't progress the application, okay, so if we get to that point where Jane, for instance, who's moving into the student property, fails her background check on a credit score, she's got a couple of CCJs that she didn't disclose to us, can we keep the holding fee? Yes, but again, there's further strict regulation to this. There are 4 reasons why we can keep the holding fee. One is failure on a background check, so for things like failing to tell us that they've got CCJs, poor credit history, unable to get a satisfactory previous landlord reference, etc. Second to that is if they are dragging their feet. So they put an application in and it takes them 2 weeks to fill the application form in. If it's taken them that long, then you are able to keep that holding fee. Third is they don't have the right to rent in the UK. So you go down the whole route with them and it turns out that this person doesn't have the correct visa, you are able to keep it then. And then finally, if they pull out, okay, so if that person decides final hour they don't want to move into the property, you are able to keep that fee. However, you need to be able to, you have to give them written notice within 14 days as to the reason why you're withholding that fee, and you need to document it again. So if Jane has a CCJ and she said to you, verbally told you, I have a CCJ, there's one CCJ, dates back to 2015, and you still want to progress her. However, though, when you do her credit check, it turns out that she's got 4 CCJs. How do you evidence that? Well, that's the problem that you've got. Verbally, you can't. So what I would suggest that you do is get them to fill in some kind of application form. We do it online. However, you may have a paper one, and ask specific questions. Is there anything that will stop you passing a background check? But be specific. Any county court judgments, salary, etc., etc. Again, there's still stricter regulations, but if you can document it and then put it forward, you'll be fine. Again, further hints and tips on the sheets, because one of the things that we were asked was if someone turns around and says, I have an income of £5,000, well, that meets their affordability. But then it turns out that they actually don't earn £35,000, they earn £34,200. That's would be unfair of us to then turn around and say, well, you didn't give us the correct information, because there is only a slight deficit there. If, for instance, they say they earn £35,000 and actually, in fact, they earn £31,000, well, that's a significant deficit which goes towards affordability, and what you would be able to do is evidence that the information they gave you wasn't correct. So again, there is some legislation around that, and we do need to be careful, but read a little bit further on our hints and tips facts sheet. The caps on deposits and the rules and regulations surrounding holding fees. What I also have done is I've got a few pointers that I think are worth pointing out for people that self-manage, and it's also key for you to understand the reasons why people like myself or maybe your agent are doing certain things at the moment. So at the top, failed contractor appointments. So we've got a 3-bedroom buy-to-let property, and normally what I would have done is, if we've got a contract that's due to go out, maybe for repair or to add something to the property, we would mutually agree with the tenant a particular time, date, etc. with them. It doesn't happen very often, but it's very frustrating when it does, when the contractor turns up and the tenant fails to be there. Sometimes what would happen is the contractor then would bill us for the failed contractor appointment, and what we would have had in the past is something in the AST to say that that bill would then fall at the feet of the tenant. I don't think that's too unfair if I ask, I don't think that's too unfair basically, but hey ho. Moving forward, we can't do that. However, there is a way around it. What you can do is, if a part of your AST, you can still put in failed contractor fees. What you would do is you would again pre-arrange that appointment, make sure that you have an email trail, auditable trail, and if Jim, the builder, does charge you, what you can do is, you can't charge them at that particular point, but what you can do is make a claim against their deposit. What you will need to do though is have to be able to prove it. So you'd need the email that you sent, a copy of the builder's invoice, and their returning email to say that they agreed to that time and date, etc. So that pretty much covers that. Second to that, pet fees. Pet fees is another big one. A large proportion of landlords do just say no to pets. There are landlords out there that will take them, and I actually positively encourage pets, just purely because statistically it shows that a tenant will stay a lot longer if they're allowed to have pets. pets are a big, huge part of our family in Britain, so it is really important sometimes to think about these things. Now, previously what would have happened is if someone's moving into a property, we would say, okay, you've got a dog, we're going to add an extra £400 as a pet deposit. As you know, deposits are capped at 5 or 6 weeks. So how do we get around that? Well, there is a way in which the government have allowed us to do that, and that is it has to be at the point of marketing. So we'll just say we're renting a property, 3-bedroom property, at £800 per calendar month. What we would need to do is just put a caption on the end to turn around and say that if you wish to have a pet in this property, the rent would be £850. Now, I have to stress that it has to be at the point of marketing. Very similar to when the EPCs came out, it's really important that when someone's making a decision of properties they're going to see, they know what the cost is. So what you need to do is just ensure it's there. If they turn up to the property and they say, oh, by the way, I've got a dog, gerbil, guinea pig, whatever, and then you turn around and say, oh, it's going to cost you an extra X, Y, and Z, unfortunately, that would be seen as you adding extra to the property. It has to be at the point of marketing. It's the local councils, I believe, that are policing this, so it would be worth just keeping an eye on that. And there are always savvy people that know what they're doing. So whether you do it or not, I don't know, but for me, I would definitely say have it in there. It's worth noting, it's worth doing. Failed contractor appointments, we've discussed. Pet fees, we've discussed. Keys. Keys is another big one. So again, not necessarily an issue for everybody. On a standalone buy-to-let, it's not a big issue. Tenant loses the keys. Part of their contract says that they would then get a locksmith out. The locksmith would give them a new set of keys, and they would then have to give either your agent or you, the landlord, a set of keys. But if you have a HMO, or you've got a property that has a master key system, or if you own a block of apartments and a communal door, for instance, or have an apartment with a communal door, if someone turns up at the 10 o'clock at night, they've gone out for a drink, lost their keys, etc., normally what they would do is give their agent a call or their landlord a call, and we, for instance, would charge £50. We would go out, open the front door for them, give them a spare key that we always have, and the £50 would cover the cost of the staff that did it, the fuel, and the cost of that key. We can't do that anymore. It's been set at a maximum £15. Now, I don't know about you, but we certainly can't afford to pay for the key, the fuel, and the staff at £15 an hour. So moving forward, our recommendation to our landlords is that have those type of properties is to have a key safe on, for instance, a HMO. Most of our HMO, if I'm honest, 80% of our HMOs have key safes on, and how that would work for you if you have a HMO is if tenant rings you or rings your managing agent and the person can't get in, as long as they can get through the front door, you're pretty much safe. Because if they got a locksmith out to change the key, then what happens is no one else can gain entry, and that just creates a whole bigger problem. And actually you'd be going against a regulation in the HMO Act, because you're denying access to the other people. So as long as they can get in the front door, if they want to get the locksmith out to change their bedroom door key, fine, they can incur that cost, and it's only them as long as they give you the key. So how the key safe would work is you would put a spare key in there, they would then take that key, close the key safe, and then at your convenience you would then go and put a new key in there for the next person to make that awful mistake and change the key code, and so forth and so forth. You can in fact charge for that price of the key, but you would need to keep a copy of the receipt and let them know, and you can make a claim against their deposit. So that's pretty much it. That's most of the stuff that I feel is quite important or imperative for landlords to know at this particular stage. There are a few other little things, a few hints and tips that will pop on that worksheet or hints and tips fact sheet. Do have a look at that, because that just goes over everything we've discussed today, and it is a lot of information to take on board, and that's it in black and white. One further thing that I will cover just quickly. It's not really part of the tenant fee ban, but again, it's just making sure that you guys are still doing this. I can't stress enough making sure that you have a photographic inventory going out and a photographic inventory going in, an photographic exit inspection. Obviously, midterm photographs are brilliant, but they would be the most important ones. A lot of the questions around the tenant fee ban that I've had come my way have been surrounding things like ensuring the place is clean when they leave. nothing's changed in terms of that. You can still make a claim against their deposit, but you need to be able to evidence it, and the only way you can evidence that is photographic inventories. I've seen time and time again where landlords have come to me and said, oh, you know, this damage was done, and my agent wasn't able to get that money back, and the landlord quite rightly is cross. But then when we've looked into it, the landlord hasn't got the right evidence in place. Whether that's their fault or the agent's fault, that's beside the by. It's just ensuring that that's there and you can make that claim and you can evidence it. Other than that, that's pretty much it. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me. You can do. It's Gemma with a G at maverickhomes.co.uk, and there'll be a link at the end of the video for you to either download the fact sheet, or indeed you can also download the tenant fee ban itself. You can have a read of that. Thank you.